When did you decide that you wanted to get into a position where you set the rules?
Wow. At some level, it was when I was 22 years old, when I first got into the workspace. And I realized I didn't want to work for a corporation where there could be some element of red tapeism, where promotions, salaries, everything else were dependent upon people above you and factors out of your control more than anything else. I joined the life insurance industry to work on commissions only as my first job, because what my mentor told me at 7:15 in the morning on the 17th of October 1999 was, you can work as many or as few hours as you want. You can make as little or as much money as you want, but you have to see 3 people a day for 6 days a week, and that's all that it takes. So pretty much what he summed up to me was, it was simple, but it wasn't going to be easy, but it's all up to you and your effort. That changed my life at 22. Now, progressively since then, I've actively seeked out people, relationships, clients, mentors that can fuel that specific area for me.
Yeah. That's a crazy formula. Yeah. I've got stuck on that. 6 days a week, just see 3 people a day.
Yep.
So simple.
So simple, but not easy.
Yeah. Because you've got to find 18 people a week, 18 in that space, 18 leads a week to have conversations with.
Absolutely. Don't get me wrong, I don't follow that formula today. But his whole point was, you're starting out afresh, and this will just give you the momentum.
Yeah.
But he didn't tell me that then. He just said, you have to see 3 people a day. Work as long, as much, or as little as you want. And I think it just set me up.
That would have been quite interesting though, because that's not your norm for a graduate to be given that sort of free rein.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of like, okay, if you got those 3 meetings done by 9 a.m., that's it for the day.
Absolutely. And that was it for the day too. Because I would sometimes finish my day by 12 p.m.
Yeah.
Mind you, this was my unhealthy space in my life.
We're going to come to that.
I'd finish by 12 p.m. and I'd go back home and I'd take it easy.
Really?
Or some days when I felt I had more energy, I'd spend time trying to find the next 3 people.
That's interesting.
And this is old school, before WhatsApp, before we used the internet for anything.
Yeah.
It was literally knock on doors. I didn't have a license, so it involved a sharing taxi from Sharjah, a bus ride, an Abra boat ride across to Burdubai, a bus ride, and then walking, finding the biggest tower I could find on Sheikh Zayed Road, dodging security, finding my way to the top floor, and walking my way down, asking corporates if they were interested in life insurance. It was a horrible pitch. It never worked, but it just set me up.
Let's stay on that, mate, because you've made a really good contrast straight away there. We're in quite a different era.
Yeah.
How do you think, do you often think back, do you reflect to, like, how did I actually make that work? Because for those that don't understand, Rickson's got a taxi about 15 kilometers, then got on a small boat into quite a bustling trading area of Dubai.
That's right.
Then he's got a bus or another taxi to another area and landed up in a high rise. So it's if you live in London, you've started on the outskirts, but you've had to somehow navigate across the Thames on a boat, and now you're in the city.
That's right.
Ready to. Do you often think back to, like, how did I actually do it?
I didn't know I didn't know another way.
Yeah.
This is what was the norm. Today we can look back at it and say, oh, there are so many smarter ways to do it given today's technology and reach and social media and everything else. But back then, you didn't have WhatsApp. I was on commissions only. Even a text message cost me 30 fills, which I would think 3 times about before sending that message out there. And even that would be optimized so that I could use the 160 characters. You know, it was difficult.
Yeah.
But it is the only way I knew. There was no other option. There was no plan B. I either had to make that situation work, or succumb to my dad's wishes because I stayed in his house and do what he wanted me to do instead, which is become a software engineer.
So you didn't like the alternative?
The alternative was not an option. There was no plan B. Right. This was the only way to make it work. So if I look back at it today, I'd say there was no other option. I know there were lots of people that came into the business and the industry. The people that made it work followed the formula that was put out in front of them.
Yeah.
And the formula was not meant to make you... It didn't mean that you would meet 3 people a day. It was just meant to build your endurance, if you may, or your resistance, or or make it normal for you to hear a no from a person more frequently, so that you just get, hardened by it.
That's something as well that I find now is probably not so commonplace. The knockback, the no's.
Yeah.
Like now we pretty much, I find that by the time we get to someone, we've probably done enough research, we have the tools to do enough research to feel that they might say yes. Mm-hmm. But you were operating in an era that there was a really good chance that they'd say no because it was such a cold call.
Yeah.
So you've been told no a number of times.
Yep.
How does that feel, and how do you keep going when you're just getting no?
I'll tell you first that I got no's more than 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Because the pitch was not efficient, but the material available back in the day to research this stuff was very limited.
Right.
There were audio tapes that I listened to on a bus ride from sales coaches in the insurance business. But those tapes may have been recorded 2 decades before I listened to them. So the pitches were outdated even then. But there was no real way of communication to know what is the latest and the best methods of doing it. It was physical publications, if you could afford them, if your company purchased them, et cetera, et cetera. So I heard no a lot. But I think that the no's on a regular basis, I think if I can remember this correctly, one of my mentors at the time told me that you're probably going to hear 99 no's out of 100 calls. You just have to get to number 99 quickly so that the 100th one is a yes. So the goal was not, I need to get that meeting. The goal was I need to get the 99 calls out of the way, the 99 knocks on the doors out of the way, so that the one is probably going to be in your favor. And over a period of time, from 1, it changes to 2 in your favor because you've now developed and evolved on your pitch. Over a period of time, it changes to 3. And maybe at some point in time, you realize you don't need the 100 or the 99 anymore. On a 50, you can get 3. So now you need to get down to 50. Yeah. Right? It changes. And obviously over 2.5 decades in the industry, today, I don't need to have 50 calls, to get the one yes.
Yeah.
So we work smarter. There's more information out there. We're putting it to better use, and it's just an easier and more efficient way of working. But without the 100 or the 99 no's, this wouldn't be a possibility either.
Yeah. You have to go through it.
It's a rite of passage.
So how does that translate into the modern era? There's a 26-year-old listening to the show who can qualify, and what we're talking about here, it's not exclusive to the insurance industry.
Sure.
Everyone, for the most part, we make a living by selling something to someone.
Yep.
Surgeon sells knives, we sell fitness, you sell insurance, we're all selling. So we've got more access and we're able to qualify leads. So our ability to tolerate no's, or our exposure to no's, is a lot less right now. So the 26-year-old is not, or the 24-year-old, or even the 30-year-old is not as used to what you were used to. They're not used to those 99 no's. So how do they make it in the world right now?
I think the system, I'm going to talk about generations, right? Because my dad came from the baby boomer generation. And when he started out, life was pegged against him completely. He had 7 siblings. His dad passed away when he was in the 10th grade. he was responsible for the family when he was 16 years old, and he started working as a bus conductor and then eventually made it in the insurance business years later in the Middle East.
Yeah.
But he had been through a lot of no's all his life. Then came my generation, and he made it better and easier for us. And after me came my children's generation. And between my kids and my generation, there is at least one more generation. We call them the millennials.
Yeah.
Right? The difference is, as the years have gone by, it's natural evolution, but we've just made it easier for the next generation to have a better and more comfortable life. So in regards to the schooling system today and stuff like that, we see that everyone gets a medal for showing up. Then you get into life, and life knocks you down, because the first time you go for a job, you didn't get a pat on your back for just showing up on time. You know, your boss is now the baby boomer, the Gen Xer, who's had a pretty hard life, and he doesn't see the reason to, you know, pat you on the back for saying, hey, well done, you showed up on time, you win. No. So I think we've heard this before again, fail soon, fail often. And I think it's important for the younger generations to see the no's, to fail in life. I get excited when my son plays football on a regular basis. My daughter's in gymnastics, and they have this urge and this tendency to want to win. But when they lose, there is a small part of me that's overjoyed, because I feel that's what's getting them ready for the real world and for the real life. It's difficult when you're an adult and it's the first time in your life that you've heard a no.
Yeah.
Being able to deal with that and comprehend that and all the emotions that come with it can't be easy. So I think it's important today as parents that we find ways to show our kids how to lose and how to deal with that loss, how to deal with that failure, and more frequently. Winning is important, don't get me wrong.
For sure.
But it's equally important to lose, to enjoy the win when you finally get there.
So the way that we've evolved as a species, what you're saying, and I agree with, mate, the way that we've evolved as a species and the systems that we've built, people are more used to getting praise. They're not used to losing so often, which is a problem.
Yeah, I think so. I think it definitely is so. I'll tell you from my trade in my industry, we generally have a very large turnover of advisors coming into the business and exiting. And for the longest time, I never understood why the turnover of advisors became larger, significantly larger. There were more people exiting the business, the more newcomers coming in, but leaving at a quicker pace, at a more rapid pace than it was when I was around.
Yeah, right.
And I think I want to say the right word over here is still endurance. The endurance to stay the course and commit to it and not want instant results and instant gratification is a lot lesser today. If you're not making it in the first 3 months, exit. 3 months. For me, my first deal that I ever closed took me 6 months, and I lost more money on that deal than I made.
Of course,
I was 2,000 dirhams in debt at the end of that to get that one deal. Whereas today, I notice people come into the business, into the industry, and it's not just my industry. I notice that if they don't get the right promotion instantly, if they don't get the right praise immediately, if they don't get the right change in income instantly, or in our line of work, if they don't get the right sales instantly, they quit, they're out.
There's a good book by, I might butcher his surname, but his first name is Steve, I think it's Magnus or something like that. And it's actually entitled Do Hard Things.
Yeah, okay.
So with that in mind, and with what you said about your children in mind, about a certain part of you is happy that they have had a loss or a failure because that's going to teach them. And I think that's really, it sounds a bit psychotic to a lot of people, but I think it's absolutely brilliant, mate, that you identify that.